Okay, good evening, everybody. I can confirm that the meeting is now being recorded and is being live streamed to the public. Over to you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Sue. Good evening and welcome to the virtual meeting of East Devon District Council on the 20th of October 2021. As your Chair, Councillor Ian Thomas, I'd also like to welcome viewers to our live stream on YouTube. Could I remind everyone that due to concerns relating to COVID risk, our council has delegated much of its decision making to senior officers for the period to the 17th of January 2022. Consequently, this evening will be a consultative meeting only. However, we'll work as closely as possible to normal procedural rules as detailed in our constitution. Where our meeting would normally have decided a matter, it will now make recommendation to a senior officer. That officer would then take our recommendation into account when making their decision. May I remind colleagues that the Code of Conduct applies throughout this meeting. We reserve the right to disconnect any disruptive participant. If there's a break in internet connection or a power cut, please bear with us as we try to reconnect. Should we not be able to reconnect within 15 minutes, we'll consider the meeting adjourned and reconvene at a later date. As this is a particularly large meeting, it's equally important that colleagues ensure microphones are muted when not in use to avoid disturbance from background noise. If you wish to speak at any point, please raise your yellow electronic hand and wait to be called. Please keep points short and don't interrupt others whilst they're speaking. Our full agenda is available online at eastdevon.gov.uk. We'll now start our meeting with a roll call of members. When you hear your name, please unmute your microphone and confirm by saying present. Thank you. Over to you, Sue.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Councillor Allen. I think we're expecting him shortly, Chair. Councillor Armstrong.
Present.
Councillor Arnott.
Present.
Councillor Bailey. Okay, I'll come back. Councillor Barrow.
Present, Sue, thank you.
Councillor Bickley.
Present, thank you, Sue.
Councillor Blakey.
Present, thank you.
Cllr Bloxham.
Present, thank you.
Councillor Bonetta.
Stuck in traffic, I'm afraid, Sue. He's trying to get here.
I think he's actually trying to get in at the moment. I'll come back. Councillor Brown.
Present.
Councillor Bruce.
Present.
Councillor Cahill. Pretty sure I've seen him trying to get in. Councillor Cahill. Okay, I'll come back. Councillor Chamberlain.
Present.
Present, Sue.
Oh, thank you. Councillor Chapman. Councillor Chubb.
Present.
Councillor Davey.
Present.
Councillor Desarum.
Present, thank you, Sue.
Councillor Dent.
Present.
Councillor Faithful. Oh, I know. Councillor Faithful. Okay,
Present.
Councillor Gazzard.
Present, thank you, Sue.
Councillor Hall.
Present, Sue.
Councillor Hartnell.
Present, thanks, Sue.
Councillor Hawkins.
Present, thanks, Sue.
Councillor Hookway.
Present, thank you, Sue.
Councillor Hughes.
Present, Sue.
Thank you. Councillor Ingham.
Present, thank you, Sue.
Councillor Jackson. Back. Councillor Jarvis.
Present, thank you, Sue.
Councillor Johns.
Present, thank you, Sue.
Councillor Young.
Thank you.
Councillor Kemp.
Present, thank you.
Councillor Lawrence. Okay, I'll come back. Councillor Ledger. Councillor Loudon.
Present, thanks, Sue.
Councillor Manley,
Present, thank you, Sue.
Councillor McCollum,
Present, thank you, Sue.
Councillor Miller,
Present, thank you, Sue.
Councillor Moulding,
Present.
Councillor Parr,
Present.
Councillor Pepper, with me, Councillor Pook,
Present.
Councillor Pratt,
Present, thank you, Sue.
Councillor Ranger,
Present, thank you.
Councillor Rickson,
Present, thank you.
Councillor Rowland,
Present, thanks, Sue.
Councillor Rylands,
Present, thank you.
Councillor Skinner,
Present, thank you.
Councillor Taylor,
Present.
Councillor Thomas,
Present.
Councillor Phil, Councillor Twiss, sorry,
Present.
Councillor Wibley,
Present, Chair, Sue.
Councillor Woodward. Oh, no, he's absent, sorry. I think he's visiting family abroad. Councillor Ragg,
Present.
Councillor Chris Wright. Okay. Councillor Tom Wright.
Thank you, Sue. Present.
Chair, can I just go over one or two, because I think we are expecting some late comers.
You'll see one or two faces arriving, I think, during the last few minutes.
Okay. Councillor Allen. Okay, not yet. Councillor Bailey. Councillor Bonetta. Councillor Chapman.
Present, Sue.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson. Okay. Councillor Lawrence. Okay. And Councillor Councillor Ledger. I think Councillor Jackson's just trying to join us.
Maybe
Okay.
we can pick up and spot if any come in.
Yes, I will do. Thank you, Chair. Over to you.
I was going to say, sorry, that Councillor Lawrence is going to be about half an hour late.
Thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor Brown. To get started, agenda item 1 is public speaking, and as far as I'm aware, we don't have any public speakers this evening. Is that correct, Sue?
It is, yes, Chair.
Lovely. We'll move straight on to agenda item 2, which are minutes of the previous council meetings. We've got minutes from 4 previous meetings to consider tonight. These are the extraordinary council meeting on the 26th of July, full council on the 27th of July, and 2 extraordinary council meetings, both on the 7th of September, but held separately and consecutively even at 6 p.m. and 6:30. Firstly, if you have any comments on the minutes of the 26th of July, which we held in person at West Point, please raise your electronic hand. No, I don't have any hands there, so could I invite members please to vote in favour using your green ticks, against with red crosses, or to wave your hand by way of abstention. Thank you.
Votes are still coming in. Thank you, Chair. At present, I've got 44 votes in favour and nothing else at present.
Good. So it's pretty close then. Thank you. I can confirm minutes are recommended for approval. What I propose to do is take the subsequent 3 consultative meetings of full council together. So could I ask if colleagues have any comments on the minutes of the 27th of July, or the first or second extraordinary meetings, both on the 7th of September, please? Again, if so, could you raise your electronic hand? Again, I'm seeing no hands, so would members please vote in favour or against receiving and noting these subsequent...
Councillor Thomas, there is a hand waving at you.
Oh,
Councillor Wright
apologies.
leaving.
So I just wanted to say I wasn't
Late
actually
appearance
at
from
the
Councillor
meeting on the
Ryland.
7th.
Sorry.
Sorry, I don't want to dispute anything, but I just wanted to say it's going to be tricky to vote en masse for me because I wasn't at the ones on the 7th.
Well, I mean, I'm not concerned about that. I don't think there's a democratic issue there, Eleanor. I think it's as much as there's anything needed to be picked up. So again, if we members could please vote in favour or against treating the three en bloc and for receiving and noting these minutes, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I've got 41 voting in favour, and that could be an abstention. I think one abstention.
Yeah, I'm just checking. Councillor Gazzard, Steve, is that an abstention on your vote?
Yes, Chair, because I wasn't at one of the meetings.
No, that's perfectly fine. Thank you very much for that. Item 3 is apologies. I've so far received apologies from several councillors, which I'm just going to get my little list up again. I've got Mike Allen, although I understand Mike is joining us now, Andrew Coleman, Kathy Gardner, Paul Hayward, David Key, Mike Howe, and Richard Lawrence. Again, I understand is late as Collins commented, but we'll pick that one up later. Also from Honorary Alderman Trevor Cope and Jim Knight, Bob Peachy, and Graham Godbeer. Are there any other apologies, please, this evening?
I've not received any, Chair.
Fine, okay, lovely. Thank you very much. Agenda item 4 is declarations of interest. In relation to any declarations of interest, if any colleagues have any, could you please, during the meeting, if you wish to make a declaration, remember to state your declaration, including which agenda item it relates to, and if it's personal or prejudicial, and what exactly your interest is. I don't propose to run through everybody. I think it's probably much quicker and more effective if we could pick up anybody who wants to declare at this point using a yellow hand. And obviously, if something comes up during debate, please indicate then. Councillor Hawkins, Sam.
Yeah, item 9 specifically for the the Cabinet meeting 20th July, the recommendation that's coming to Council 51 Cranbrook Local Infrastructure Fund. Obviously, I'm a member for Cranbrook. I live here, so it's just a personal interest.
Okay, thank you for that. We've got that noted, Sue.
Yes, thank you, Chair.
I've no more showing at this point in relation to declarations of interest. So we're going to move on through to agenda item 5, which is matters of urgency. We've one matter to deal with here, which is the parking in Axminster, which will be picked up as item 11. Next, I've got announcements from the chair and or leader. I mean, I've got 3 announcements as the chair, 2 very somber, sadly. Firstly, none of us could fail to have been horrified by the tragic and senseless murder of MP Sir David Amis at his constituency surgery in Leigh-on-Sea on Friday afternoon. On behalf of all associated with East Devon District Council, I've written to Prime Minister Boris Johnson to express our sincere condolences to Sir David's family and Westminster colleagues. We residents in East Devon greatly value direct access to our MPs, Simon Jupp, Neil Parish and Mel Stride. Similarly, community representatives within local government meet with those we're proud to represent in numerous different roles, each playing our part at the core of British democracy. It's just 5 years since the murder of Joe Cox. The dreadful events of Friday will inevitably cause MPs and other political representatives to question personal security. In East Devon, we believe it's important to work together in an atmosphere of renewed tolerance, understanding, and respect. We must continue to make it crystal clear neither violence nor intimidation have a place at any level of politics, to ensure that all elected representatives can continue to carry out their duties safely. Our thoughts at this difficult time are with Sir David's family. We were also saddened to hear of the passing of former Exeter City Council leader Pete Edwards, who died recently in hospital after a short illness. Pete served Exeter City Council for 30 years, 8 as leader from 2011 to his retirement in 2019. A proud former bus driver, Peter introduced the living wage to the council and was prominent in attracting landmark retailers to the city, including John Lewis and IKEA, together with fixtures from the 2015 Rugby World Cup to Sandy Park. It was fitting that one of Pete's last engagements post-retirement was the opening of the new council-funded Exeter bus station. Personally, I remember Pete fondly from several meetings we shared. His enthusiasm and skill in working together as an effective partner meant we were both able to pursue many initiatives to the benefit of both the City of Exeter and East Devon. I was fortunate in as council leader in 2018 to inherit a unique cross-party relationship that Pete, as Exeter's Labour leader, had established with our own former Conservative leader, Paul Diviani. Our thoughts are with Pete's wife, Sylvia, and their family. Many of us will remember him with great personal affection. I'd like to invite colleagues at this point who are meant to make brief reference to either Sir David Amis or Pete Edwards to indicate. And I'm aware Andrew Moulding wants to speak at this point, please. So over to you, Andrew, if we could.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And I want to make a comment regarding Pete Edwards, who, as you mentioned, was a leader of Exeter City Council for 8 years. And of course, during that time as leader, he worked extremely closely with the Chief Executive of Exeter City Council, who of course was Karim Hassan, who many of us will remember as our former head of development here at East Devon District Council. And I'm aware very much that the major changes and improvements to Exeter City Centre were the joint vision of both Pete and Karim. When I was deputy leader of East Devon District Council, I attended a number of meetings with Pete. And when I was chairman of the district council and indeed of the county council, we met on a number of occasions, often in ceremonial processions where we tended to stand alongside each other and exchange mutual thoughts. I well remember a reception at Sandy Park where sporting volunteers were honoured, and I was sat at a table with both Pete Edwards and Phil Bialik, who then was deputy leader of Exeter City. I knew Phil Bialik very well because we played cricket against each other on a number of occasions, myself for Axminster and Phil Bialik for Wimple. And we had a very engaging occasion during that reception at Sandy Park. We sat at the table, we exchanged pleasantries, and then afterwards, the meeting was just coming to an end, and Pete said, "Let's go to Wetherspoons." Typical of Pete, he wanted to continue the conversation, he wanted to be as convivial as he always was, and wanted to learn about various issues at East Devon District Council, which of course were similar to those at Exeter City. So off we went to Wetherspoons, had a jolly good time. I think I only just managed to catch the train back to Axminster on the last train, but we had an excellent evening. He was a most convivial man. He did a tremendous amount for Exeter City Council, and I remember him with fond affection. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Councillor Skinner, Philip.
Thank you, and I'll be brief, and well done, Andrew. It's very well said. At my time as deputy leader, I got to know Pete, as we call him, very well. Met him on many occasions. Pete was a man who didn't take on fools kindly and absolutely said exactly what he thought. And if he liked you, he liked you. And if he didn't like you, you soon knew about it. But what I liked about Pete, the mutual respect we had with one another, was that although politically we may have been diverse in our opinions, Pete was an Exeter man through and through. And the P in politics for Pete came secondary to being the E for Exeter for Pete Edwards. He was a man who was very much stood for what he believed in with Exeter. He had his views, and he was driven by trying to make Exeter into a better place. I've some very, very fond memories of working with Pete. I can remember going to Birmingham to an event up there where we stayed for a couple of days, and I met Pete up there on several occasions, and he was a man for his pint, but a wonderful man, and man that when I heard the news, it really it did upset me tremendously, and a man I wasn't aware that was as ill as what he was. So my condolences go to his family and on his friends, and I just wanted to say those few words. Thank you very much. A sad loss to us all.
Thank you very much, Philip. Councillor Gazzard, Steve.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, can I thank you for writing the letter to the Prime Minister on our behalf. It was a shocking event that we've all seen over the last week or so, and reminds us of what dangers our politicians are in, and our thoughts are with his family. I had the pleasure of meeting Pete Edwards many years ago at Exeter Trades Council when I was a member of that. And as my colleagues have said, he was Exeter through and through. And I had the pleasure also of meeting him at Exeter City, because he was a loyal Exeter City fan. And the club on Saturday paid a huge tribute to him, and he will be missed at Exeter City. But he was a lovely, kind, gentle man, and he was always willing to listen to people's views. As has been said, he may not agree with them, but he was open-minded and a very kind and generous person. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Steve. Councillor Jarvis, Paul.
I was lucky enough to have met Joe Cox on several occasions, and that was the most shocking situation that we hoped would never happen again. Unfortunately, it has. All I can suggest to everybody is what we used to do in Plymouth. If you are meeting somebody you have never met before and going to their homes, just let someone else know how long you think it's going to take. I know this sounds a bit dramatic, but it is important. Let somebody else in your family or your friends know that you're going somewhere, how long it's going to take, and make sure they are aware you are gone. It's a simple thing. It's just vigilance on all of our parts.
Thank you very much, Paul. Councillor Arnott, another Paul.
Thank you, Chair. In order, thank you so much for that excellent letter. Thank Councillor Moulding and Councillor Skinner and Councillor Gazzard for those deeply moving tributes, and to Paul for wrapping up the concerns that are still going on as well. I would only say two things. First of all, both men, as has been commented, were marked by the quality of being able to have firm political disagreements, but extremely civil personal relationships. And I think that's a remarkable example, and they are a great loss in that respect. And secondly, Chair, and finally, just as a matter of information, I was at a meeting with all Devon leaders and the Vice-Chancellor of the university yesterday, and I was able to tell Councillor Bialik, Phil, that we were doing this tonight for Pete Edwards. And as you've referred to, it was a deep personal friendship there, going back as both as bus drivers, union leaders, and then as councillors working grueling hours, either driving a bus and as a councillor, or as a union rep and as a councillor. And Phil has followed in Pete's footsteps, and Phil was very grateful that we are doing this, and thank you, Chair, for facilitating it, and thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Councillor Rylance, Eleanor.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted, I'm not having known Councillor Edwards, I welcome all your contributions and all your testimonials about what a wonderful man he was and how good he was at working cross-party. But I really wanted to just slightly talk about the shocking murder of Sir David Amos. And I think those of us who are more in the public eye than the average probably feel a little, well, extremely unsettled that somebody who was simply doing their job and trying to make themselves available to their constituents ended up paying the ultimate price for their devotion. And by all accounts, David Amis was an extremely good constituency MP, and I would urge all level of restraint in any speculation about how this happened, or anything about the perpetrator, because we simply don't know, and we have to somehow, in this rather divided country, bring politics back to a level at which we can indeed interact with each other in a completely polite and respectful manner, no matter what our differences are. I think we really do not want to be going down the road of being a country that becomes violent for political ends. That would be a horrifying turn of events, and I would urge anybody listening to this to please wait for the outcome of any investigation into what happened, because we simply do not know at the moment, and it's unhelpful to speculate. But please must all reach out towards each other and find ways of working together, because this cannot continue. This state of affairs cannot continue. We've lost 2 MPs in 5 years, and that is appalling. We have to start finding a way of speaking to each other nicely and being tolerant of each other's differences of views. And I'm very sorry that Sir David Amis was the second person to die in the search of dialogue with people. And again, I would say we don't know anything about what happened, so please wait for the outcome of the investigation, and deepest condolences to his family and to all his friends and colleagues. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, colleagues, for all those valuable contributions. What I propose we do now is we'll hold a minute of silent reflection with respect to both sad losses. And on this occasion, for reasons that are probably obvious, and that we're on a Zoom call, is that we observe whilst remaining seated. So if we could start that now, please. Thank you, colleagues. That was it's very important that we do recognise this. And just as an aside, as members will be aware, I'm organising sessions about how we might protect ourselves best going forward and take appropriate precautions to ensure that we can all continue to serve our constituents to the best of our abilities. Finally, on a happier note, Jamie, I'd like to announce the election of Councillor Jamie Kemp to East Devon District Council as ward member for Exe Valley in the by-election on the 23rd of September. Welcome, Jamie. I hope you enjoy your time with us.
Thank you very much. I look forward to working with you all.
Good, thank you very much. Agenda item 7 are confidential and exempt items. No items have been recommended by officers to be dealt with as confidential or exempt. Agenda item 8 is to answer questions by members of the council under procedure rules 9.2 and 9.5. I've got 11 questions tonight, a 10-1 win for poor Councillor Miller over Councillor Twiss, each of which have been responded to in writing and published prior to the meeting. What I'd like to do first, please, is ask, I haven't any details on this, whether Councillor Miller has wished us to make any supplementary questions, or whether, as usual, he's totally satisfied with the complete responses he's already received.
I wouldn't go that far, Chair, but to the delight, I'm sure, of you and colleagues, I have no supplementaries. Thank you.
Sorry, was that obvious? Councillor Twiss, do you have a supplementary, please?
I do, Chair, and I'm going to send my apologies. I've just had some bad news with a family member, so I may not stay for the entire meeting. But anyway, here we go.
Sorry to hear that, Phil.
Thank you. I'm grateful to the Leader of the Council for his 635-word answer, where less than 30 words offering his personal opinion, stating would, of course, personally favour the soonest resumption of meetings in person would have done just as well, rather than offering his non-expert opinion on other matters in his reply. On the 15th of September this year, Councillor Arnott addressed a small venue, full house, in his words, audience at the Budleigh Salterton Literary Festival to help plug and shift a few units, his phrase again, of a book he had written, where he didn't appear to be too much social distancing. On the 5th of October, Councillors Ledger, Jackson, Bickley, Gardner, Hookway and others attended the well-supported relaunch of Sidmouth TIC to enjoy a few complimentary glasses of fizz and light bites. My question is this: now that Councillor Arnott, the current leader of East Devon District Council, and those other members who have quite evidently overcome their concerns about meeting in person, attending events with significant numbers of people, will they all now agree to support an immediate COVID-safe return to all EDDC meetings, which require an in-person vote, as is the case with other local authorities, where other than full council, these are generally held with much smaller numbers than at his book promotion event over a month ago, or those knocking back refreshments at the other one earlier this month? Thank you.
Councillor Arnott, would you like to respond briefly? I do have a comment, I think, in that as chair, I was involved in making these arrangements in the first place, and obviously I think an update on the general situation might help Councillor Twiss, but by all means answer his supplementary first.
Thank you, Chair. It's as if the first 30 minutes of this meeting never happened. I think, out of respect for what we've just done, choose to answer this in writing, but I think my answer clearly indicated this matter had been led from the chair, quite rightly by the chair, in full consultation. I don't take it as a bad thing to have written a 635-word answer. I think it's a full answer, and in it is indicated, and Councillor Twiss forces me to say this because he's looking to his press release tomorrow, which again, in the circumstances of tonight's meeting, is tragic. It's scorpion and frog stuff, isn't it, really? So, Councillor Twiss, it's been explained to you very clearly indeed that your own leader was asked to agree to us continuing at, for example, Cabinet and Planning to meet in person. We were doing that, and other members were able to access those meetings COVID safe through Zoom. But sadly, it was your group and your group only who refused to allow that. And so because of, there's so much one could say and won't, because the government had failed to act on making it possible for us to go on with virtual meetings, the chair was left with no option but to try and work out, well, what do we do now? And so a meeting of council was summoned at West Point at some expense. And as Councillor Twiss will remember, and I'm sure there's a valid reason, he wasn't able to get there himself, as were 9 of his colleagues unable. And we went through a process and we came out with a worse solution. Planning and Cabinet aren't meeting in person still. We've taken a step backwards. The decision of council was absolutely clear that we come back as it stands on the 18th of January, subject to changing circumstances and so forth. I'm trying to think if I've heard anything more disappointingly crass. I didn't enjoy the pleasure of Councillor Twiss's company in giving a talk to a room in Budleigh Salterton. But I, looking at it from my own point of view, were many yards from the nearest member of audience, and when I moved around anywhere near them, I wore a mask. I don't really think that the other members you've noticed, and it's almost like one's being surveyed by an aspect of the Chinese state here, should have to explain why they went to support the opening of the Sidmouth TIC. For Councillor Twiss, we are talking about the chamber at Blackdown House. We are talking about meetings that go on for 3.5 to 4 hours. You cannot possibly have a full council meeting in there. Obviously not under any type of safety at all. It's just not possible. We managed to do it on Cabinet. We put ourselves out to do it. We sat there like goldfish in a bowl. We didn't even have officers in the room with us, and we executed it. And Councillor Ragg's planning committee did exactly the same, a slightly larger committee. And if Councillor Twiss, your own party, and it is really tragic that one has tonight to identify you by your party, and by the press release you're desperate to squeeze out tomorrow, if you had only cooperated, then those committees would, and others, would still be meeting in person. I've written in the reply, and I know the chair is much more expert on this than I, what the current rates of infection are. And, well, actually, I'll just, Chair, if I may, just rest my case at that point. But I would say, Chair, I have nothing else to say on this matter at all to Councillor Twiss. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Arnott. It's not normal practice to actually organise a discussion, Councillor Brown-Collin, on questions to the leader, in that the leader's actually answered them. Unless it's a point of clarification that you can put briefly, I'll accept it.
Yeah, it is a point of clarification. I was asked whether we should continue meetings face to face. I said yes, we should. If you go into your YouTube on the 26th of July when we met at West Point, I spoke in favour of us meeting face to face and continuing the planning meetings, etc., at Blackdown House. I think the leader has got it wrong saying that I was against it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I can't comment in the detail on that. All I think it's worth summing this up at this point is the current situation is obviously deteriorating in the same way as it was at the time we made what I believe still was the correct decision to move back to virtual meetings. But what we'll be doing, which was the plan really, and I'd already arranged, was that an item's coming forward to our full council meeting on the 8th of December, at which point we'll properly debate the principle of either staying in the way we are, moving towards a middle ground, or moving towards a full in-person approach, which I'm no doubt will actually depend on the circumstances in the COVID pandemic at the beginning of December. So I'm not prejudging that outcome now. So hopefully that helps. But as I say, there will be an item, as was scheduled, coming forward at the 8th of December full council, which will make the decision as to what we do after the 17th of January 2022. Hopefully that helps everybody. Thank you very much. Sorry, Leader, do you want to come back very briefly, please?
I'm sorry about this, and this has just been commented in our chat. There's so much poor taste around this. Councillor Brown was asked by you, as were all other leaders, whether, as a way of progressing, he would agree to the status quo, and he wouldn't, as it was then. And subsequently, there was the meeting, which he has just referred to. But prior to that, he had declined to go along with it. I mean, and I really hope Councillor Brown doesn't come on this, because I don't want to tit for tat. Thank you, Chair.
Well, I would like to come back.
Well, Councillor Brown, no, sorry, I don't want to protract this tonight. As I've said, the matter isn't going to be resolved this evening. There's going to be no immediate return to face-to-face meetings tomorrow morning, but we will discuss the matter properly at our full council meeting on the 8th of December, and I look forward to a full and frank discussion at that point, and we'll make a sensible decision as to what's right in the new year based on the situation as it is then. Moving on. I think that covers off all the questions. Next I've got is agenda item 9, report from the Cabinet and Council's committees and questions on those reports. I'd like to receive minutes from Council committees and invite members to vote in favour or against, recommending passing minutes to officers for approval, or noting and endorsing meeting minutes where there are actually no recommendations. For ease of reference, recommendations are all summarised on pages 36 to 38 of your hymn sheets. And I'd also like to make a slight change to the order of presentation to help Councillor Hawkins, who must leave us soon to attend another commitment. So with your agreement, I'd like to take item 9Q first. That's the minutes of the Audit and Governance Committee held on the 23rd of September. Would Councillor Hawkins please present the minutes?
Thank you, Chair, for your indulgence on this. Yes, I'd like to present the minutes of the Audit and Governance Committee meeting 23rd of September 2021, minutes numbers 1 to 16. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No questions there. Would members please vote in favour or against receiving and noting the minutes, please?
Okay, Chair, I have 38 votes in favour and nobody against or abstaining.
Thank you very much. I confirm those minutes are received and noted. I'm also, I think, which is, I'm sure, again, you know, our friend Councillor Miller will love, is there are actually no called minutes on any items this evening, which has got to be a record. So what we'll move straight on, please, if we could, to the leader for minutes of Cabinet on the 28th of July, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to ask for your help here, if I may, because the agenda has disappeared from my screen. So I'm wondering if you can help me with the numbers, or even if you can just say them and I'll say I so move or something like that, Chair. Thank you.
Are you just trying to catch me out now?
Oh, no, sorry, take your time.
Of course, no, I don't need any time. This is 9A, minutes of Cabinet meeting held on the 28th of July, minutes 44 to 53. And on the basis you're the leader of the council, I'm not, it's for you to move them, not me.
Thank you so much, Chair, for your assistance in this. I'm sure all members heard that, and therefore I'd like to move those minutes for acceptance. Thank you.
Thank you. Would members please vote in favour or against receiving and noting these minutes?
Thank you, Chair. I have 37 votes in favour.
Thank you very much. I can confirm minutes are received and noted. The next one, Cabinet, is Cabinet on the 1st of September 2021. And I'll just jump across to that. And that is minutes 54 to 58, please.
I so move, Chair, if I may.
Would members please vote in favour or against of receiving and noting these minutes, please?
Thank you, Chair. I have 40 votes in favour.
Chair, I don't know if it will help, but you might, given that there are no called minutes, you might want to take them on block for each committee.
Very happy to do that, Henry. My apologies. I was doing it independently as advice was. I needed to do that this time because of the way it was set up, but very happy they go en masse. But that then would leave, if we're going to Cabinet, that was the 8th of September. Was that the 1st of September, wasn't it? So you've got 9C, minutes of Cabinet held on the 8th of September, minutes 59 to 74. And 9D, minutes of Cabinet held on the 6th of October, minutes 75 to 93.
I would like to move those, please, through the chair, and thank you again for your assistance in this matter.
You're very welcome and very professionally done. Can we please again ask members to vote in favour or against receiving and noting the remainder of the Cabinet minutes, please?
Thank you, Chair. I have 41 votes in favour. Oh, and one abstention. Sorry, one abstention.
Sorry, Councillor Loudon, that's not an extension. It is because the 6th of October one, as you quite fairly asked me and I've nearly forgotten, and you've just reminded me. you wanted to speak very briefly on the council plan from that item. Could you please speak now? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and you're quite right. I was trying to juggle the green tick and raising my hand, and I think I kicked myself out of my green tick. So very briefly, we have just approved the new council plan through acceptance at 9D of minute 92 of the 6th of October Cabinet. Can I perhaps, with your indulgence, thank a few people? First of all, Anne Reader, who was the facilitator for our 4 workshops. Can I also then thank all members who have participated at some point or other in the process of developing this plan over the last 6 months? That's been extremely helpful. And also, can I thank all the officers who've assisted in one way or another in developing and preparing parts of the plan and the background information. And in so doing, obviously, it would be remiss of me not to thank the Chief Executive, Mark Williams, who's helped steer this through, and also to Joe Avery, who valiantly has done the heavy lifting in preparing draft after draft after draft. So thank you, Chair, and thanks to everybody who's been involved.
Thank you, Councillor Loudon, and it's unusual, actually, I think, on this to recognise the amount of work that you've also put into this, which is not always easy to get these things together. But you know, I think you've done a super job in bringing together what's quite a complicated document. Does look remarkably similar to 1 or 2 of the predecessors, but as you say, you've put your slant on it. So, so I'm very pleased we've got it sorted now, and look forward to working together on it. Moving on from there, I've got Councillor Tom Wright, minutes of scrutiny committee held on the 29th of July 2021. Is Councillor Wright there?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I move those minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Minutes of 7th of October, I think, if we're doing them by group.
Sorry, thank you, Val, Councillor, for picking that one up. As we are allowed to do them in batches, which I understood we weren't, we can put them both together and also bring those 2 together. I think we'll separate out the overview and scrutiny joint one till later. So that's the 7th of October as well, please.
Yes, I move those minutes, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would members please vote in favour or against receiving and noting these minutes?
Thank you, Chair. I have 38 votes in favour.
Thank you very much. I confirm those minutes are received and noted. We now move on to the joint meeting of the Overview and Scrutiny Committees on the 16th of September, please. Councillor Johns, Vicky.
Thank you, Chair. I move the minutes of the Joint Overview and Scrutiny Committee meeting held on the 16th of September 2021, minute numbers 1 to 6.
Thank you very much. Members, again, please vote in favour or against receiving and noting these minutes.
Chair, I have 38 votes in favour.
Thank you very much. And again, I can confirm that these minutes are received and noted. The next batch I've got are, in fact, there is only one again. It's minutes of the Housing Review Board on the 16th of September. Councillor Chamberlain, Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. I present the minutes of the Housing Review Board meeting held on the 16th of September 2021, minute numbers 1 to 15.
Thank you very much. Would members please vote in favour or against receiving and noting these minutes?
Thank you, Chair. I have 41 votes in favour.
Thank you very much. I confirm these minutes are received and noted. Next, on to minutes of, I'm just looking to see whether there are any more again. No, just one. Minutes of Strategic Planning Committee held on the 20th of July, 7th of September and 5th of October. Councillor Ledger.
I think he's not here, Chair.
Right,
I've had a look
David.
through, so yeah.
Councillor David, Ollie, if you could do the honours.
I can. I would move the minutes of the Strategic Planning Committee held on the 20th of July, minutes numbers 14 to 21, the 7th of September, minutes numbers 22 to 32, and on the 5th of October, minutes numbers 33 to 41.
Thank you very much. Would members please vote in favour or against receiving and noting these minutes?
Thank you, Chair. I have 39 votes in favour.
Thank you. I confirm again that these minutes are received and noted. Moving on to Councillor Wright with the minutes of the Planning Committee on the 4th of August, 1st of September and 29th of September, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move the minutes of the Planning Committee on the 4th of August, minutes 28 to 37, 1st of September, 38 to 47, and the 29th of September, minutes 48 to 56. I so move.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wright. Will members please vote in favour or against receiving and noting those minutes?
Thank you, Chair. I have 40 votes in favour.
Thank you. And again, I can confirm those minutes are received and noted. Next on, Councillor Whibley with licensing.
Hi there. Yeah, I'd like to put forward the minutes of the licensing and enforcement subcommittees on the 11th of August and the 8th of September, minutes 11 to 20, and also thank the members who put themselves forward to stand on those committees.
Thank you very much, Councillor Whibley. Would members please vote in favour or against receiving and noting these minutes?
Okay, Chair, I have 37 votes in favour and one, I'm not sure whether that's an abstention or somebody wanting to make a comment.
Well, I can see Councillor Moulding clapping his hands. I don't know whether he's expressing contentment with the outcome.
Here, I just missed the wrong button and I hit the yellow hand instead of the green tick.
And here's me.
I will accept your applause.
Here's me thinking it's an unbridled joy at the licensing committee minutes. Clearly the most exciting of the lot, but I'll do the best I can now because the next one is my minutes, or one set of them, from the standard committee held on the 14th of September, minute numbers 1 to 6. And would members please all vote in favour or against receiving and noting these minutes, please?
Chair, I have 38 voting in favour.
Well, sadly, I'm not seeing any applause, so clearly we can't compete with licensing, but we'll have another go. And the next one is the Standards Committee. On the minutes, the Standard Committee on the 14th of September, minutes 1 to 6. Again, would members please vote in favour or against receiving and noting these minutes?
Oh, I have 36 votes in favour, 1 ice cream cone and 1 hand raised.
Megan, I'm getting the impression Councillor Armstrong's hand is she's either getting very enthusiastic or it's not actually an abstention. So,
look, am I allowed to speak?
If you can make it brief, Megan. I'm not sure what you're doing with your notes, but
I think that we've just voted twice for the Standards Committee and you missed out the Personnel Committee, unless I just misheard it.
Oh, well, my apologies. I must admit I was suspicious I might have done.
I might
Can
be
you
wrong.
confirm that, Sue?
Can confirm that or deny it.
I think you did actually, Chair.
Okay, well, ever going through a go around again. There's nothing like having a second go if you don't get it right first time. The minutes of the Personnel Committee.
Sorry about that.
No, thank you very much, Megan. I'm absolutely sure you would pick me up if I do anything wrong, you know, with your own normal gusto. Anyway, minutes of the Personnel Committee held on the 2nd of September, numbers 1 to 6. Would members please vote in favour or against receiving or noting these minutes, please?
Thank you, Chair. Oh, 42 votes in favour and a thumbs up, I think, so.
Oh, well, we'll take the thumbs up. So, I mean, obviously, I was just making doubly sure that we got the standards covered off by doing it twice. So my apologies for that, colleagues, and thanks to Councillor Armstrong for noticing the deliberate error. Next I've got is agenda item 10, which is changes to councillor appointments, and we're expecting a report from the monitoring officer on this, please. Henry, can I hand over to you, please?
Thank you, Chair. It's a very short self-contained report. I don't intend to add anything to it other than just to say that it's a sort of sweeping up exercise in a sense, picking up some changes that are necessary following councillor resignations, but happy to take any questions. Otherwise, I would commend it to you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I'm not seeing any questions. In the absence of that, then I'll move that from the Chair. Will members please vote in favour or against recommending approval of that report?
Thank you, Chair. I have 38 votes for, 1 against and 1 abstention.
Now, again, I'm assuming that Councillor Faithfull's hand is an abstention. Yes, good, right, he's disappeared, so I guess that confirms that. So we'll move, I'm pleased to confirm then that this report and its recommendations are recommended for approval. And we come now to an urgent item. This is agenda item 11, the proposed temporary car park management arrangements for the Webster's Garage site in Axminster. Now, I've agreed to deal with this as an urgent matter to allow the car park to be reopened as soon as possible and to support the important message that Axminster is open for business by offering increased parking facilities in the run-up to Christmas. Could I invite Andrew Ennis, please, as Service Lead for Environmental Health and Car Parks to address the report? Andrew.
Chair, if I may, Andrew's away at the moment, so it's John Golding. If I may introduce the report for you.
I'm sure you'll make a perfectly satisfactory substitute, John.
As you say, this report is seeking authority to enter into an agreement to temporarily manage the car park following an approach from the owner. There are plans being developed for the long-term redevelopment of the site, hence the temporary nature of the agreement. I understand that the car park is currently closed and the owners are urgently seeking a short-term manager whilst finalising their planning application. The owner's keen to maintain an income stream from their asset and as you said, Chair, an important facility for Axminster's local economy to provide parking, particularly in the run-up to the Christmas period. We've discussed the terms of an agreement with the owners and can absorb this into our car park portfolio temporarily whilst recovering our own costs. We'll need to install a ticket machine, as the report suggests, with a pay-by-phone capability and a change to our parking places order to enable us to enforce in the car park. The insurance and business rates liability will be covered by the owner. Any site maintenance required will also be covered and be the responsibility of the owner. The proposal is for a 1-year extendable agreement, and as you can see from the report, we're anticipating that we'll probably be managing for a period of around 18 months. There's a section in the report explaining the urgency relating to this matter. I'm grateful for you, Chair, and members to agree for it to go on tonight's agenda. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. Councillor Wright. Tom.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I suppose I should declare an interest here. I've recently taken on a new hobby which involves many frequent visits to Axminster Tools, and I was there the other day and Axminster did not seem very much alive, so I would welcome this move to try and encourage people back to Axminster, and if I may, I will move that the recommendation is accepted. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Before we move on, I've got Henry, you're indicating, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think having reviewed the report, one of the requirements of commenting has not been carried through into the recommendations. So can I ask that the following wording is added, please? So it reads as is, and after Axminster it goes on to say, with delegated authority being given to the service lead, environmental health and car parks, in consultation with the strategic lead finance and strategic lead governance and licensing to negotiate and agree the commercial terms and enter into the commercial agreement, please.
Okay, do you need a formal proposer for that, Henry, or can I do that from the chair?
If Councillor Wright's happy to accept it as part of his moving approval, then that'll be fine.
Okay,
more than happy.
Right. Tom, you okay with that?
More than happy, Chairman. My experience of Axminster that day indicates that Axminster needs all the help it can get. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. Can I have a seconder, please, for that proposal? I've got Councillor Hall ready to speak. Was that to second, Ian?
That is, Chair, and I welcome this report and what Councillor Wright said. I'm happy to second it. Let's get Axminster open. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've got Councillor Gazard indicating to speak. Steve.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I was just going to second it, Chair, because we need to do everything for all our towns to try and do the best for the upcoming Christmas period and thereafter. Thank you.
Okay, lovely. So with that, what I'd like to do in the absence of any more speakers is with that addition that as Henry's requested, which I believe obviously we've got noted appropriately, Sue, okay. Could we then vote on the proposal? Again, the normal green ticks in favour, red crosses against, and any abstentions with the yellow marigolds, please.
Okay, Chair, I have 42 votes in favour, none against or abstaining. Oh, 44, in fact.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, everybody. I can confirm that the reporter and its recommendations as amended are recommended for approval. Next item is item 12, which is a motion on the universal credit cut. Now don't propose to read through the whole of the proposal. I'm assuming members have already done that and are familiar with it. What I'd like to do is invite Councillor Miller as the proposer to speak on the motion, please. Paul.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, some thank yous. Firstly, to John Golding, Andrew Wood, and Sue Howell for providing some important factual information, which helped the motion, and also to thank all the councillors who signed the motion, which means it's a cross-party motion, which I think captures the spirit of this meeting. As members will see, the motion is split into three parts. The first part is on the need for the council to, as visibly as possible, promote schemes that are going to get more people in the district into work, particularly young people. The second part is on the need for the Cabinet to reassess its spending towards initiatives to reduce poverty in light of the current circumstances, which were unprecedented. The increase in wholesale energy prices was not something we could have expected when Cabinet last set its budget for poverty. I want to note that this would be a request, not an order from Council to Cabinet, and it's ultimately for the Cabinet, and in particular Councillor Armstrong, to decide what is appropriate within our budget. And I respect that, and also want to applaud Councillor Armstrong for the role she's played in leading our poverty strategy. Thirdly, this motion proposes that this council makes a stand to the government to set out how the reinstatement of this £20 a week universal credit uplift will relieve destitution this winter. With rising energy prices somewhat out of government's control, this is the one lever government can pull to help this situation. Now, this particularly affects residents in our area due to the gulf, which we should all be aware of, between wages and rents and house prices in our district. Similar to Councillor Gazard, who spoke at a recent Cabinet meeting, I am now getting desperate phone calls and emails from people increasingly who are really struggling. In phone calls, the fear and anxiety is heartbreaking. The housing and benefits team are increasingly being inundated with phone calls from desperate and broken individuals. I've set out why the decision to remove the uplift to universal credit has been the wrong thing to do at this time in my briefing which accompanies the motion. Now, some cynics may argue this letter will achieve absolutely nothing, and that may well be the case, but I think we have a duty to our residents to say we're doing all we can to try to help this situation and let them know that we are against this ill-timed cut. Under pressure from councils and charities earlier in the year, the government did U-turn on this cut, and as winter pressures on our residents become more evident, under enough public pressure, I believe the government may reinstate this benefit. In the longer term, I'm well aware that the benefit system should not be used to stop employers from paying a decent wage. It shouldn't subsidise low pay. But this winter in Exmouth and across our district, families are worried about paying their rent and feeding their children. And as one of my questions to council this evening shows, we are now spending a record amount of money, £400,000 in a single year, to hotels and B&Bs to place homeless people within our district in temporary accommodation. 6 years ago, that figure was 15,000. The rise has been huge. This is the only motion on the agenda tonight, and I'd really like to see a unanimous vote because I haven't mentioned a political party in this entire speech. I think we need to show our solidarity and support for the residents of East Devon facing serious financial hardship this winter. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Paul. Can I invite Councillor Bonetta, Jake, as the seconder to speak to the motion, please? Do we have Councillor Bonetta?
I saw him trying to join the meeting a couple of times, Chair. I'm not sure if he's still with us.
Okay.
I can see him on my screen. I can see Councillor Jake Bonetta, but I can't actually see him, if that makes sense.
Okay, well, Councillor Miller, what I propose to do is if on the basis that I would imagine Councillor Armstrong's going to speak in support, would you like to speak next, Councillor Armstrong? Megan?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you. Yeah, thanks very much.
But I do need somebody to actually second the motion.
Yeah. It may be slightly different when I've finished speaking. It may be. Depends on what Councillor Miller says.
Right. Well, sorry. Could I have in first instance then? Could I? Is anybody wanting to second the motion?
Can I second the motion, Chair?
Oh, you can certainly, Councillor Allen. So, Councillor Allen, could you speak next? I'll come back to you, Councillor Armstrong. My apologies.
Okay. Yeah.
I do need a seconder for the motion.
Yes. It gives me great pleasure to second this motion. Paul approached me to support it. Paul and I and Megan and others, along with the whole of council, have made a policy that every decision in council has to take account of poverty. And when we are looking at this whole issue, this council has been very effective in reorganising itself to help in whichever way it can. Now, I don't personally agree that the universal credit cut should have happened at this point in time. I think it should have happened in next April, and a whole budget review of the whole situation should have taken place then. But it's the wrong time for this to happen. The second thing I'd like to say is that the government is putting out a hardship fund which we can use, and along with other revisions of our budgets, we do have the opportunity to make significant amounts of help available to our disabled residents, to our single parent residents in particular, who are most affected by the current situation. Those people who cannot work ought to be the first priority for help from this council. And I do hope that all members of the council will put their backing to really reviewing how much money is being made available through our hardship fund Jack, we particularly ask you to look at that so that we can hold our heads up and say that we've done our utmost best for the most disabled, most vulnerable people in our district. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Allen. What I'll do is if I could, go to Councillor Armstrong next. Megan.
All right, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I really agree very much with this motion, the spirit of it, and just what I wanted to just clarify with members and particularly with Councillor Miller and Councillor Allen, a seconder, is the process of which I think we should be doing this. So if I can just take the first of the three. I understand that Councillor Miller has spoken to Andy Wood, Service League for Growth, Development and Prosperity, and it's under his remit, I would think, that the first part of the motion he would be responsible for that, and I know that his team, and we had a speaker from his team at the last poverty working panel, look into all these things, but that's not to say that there are some things that may have been overlooked, and some new schemes, as mentioned here, some new programs that may need to be looked into. So yes, I agree with that. I think that's something we have regular updates at the poverty working panel from our senior officers about the process, and certainly we can put that to them and ask them to perhaps try and report on that at the next meeting or as soon as they can about these new programs. So I agree with that. Fine. The second bit about the urgent report to forthcoming cabinet, it's just the process of doing this, and I would think we've already got, as members will know, certainly Councillor Allen will know, that we've already set aside £30,000 in the budget towards the poverty strategy and any new groups and any new initiatives that may come from our discussions. And we did that on purpose because we didn't want to overload the budget, the overall budget, without knowing, in a bit more detail what we needed it for. And I understand that Libby Jarrett's team in Revenues and Benefits and Sharon are already working with the County Council to try and get, to see what money is available from the County Council. And so I would suggest that this particular section goes to the poverty strategy, the poverty panel, with a report from Libby or a member of her team to explain exactly what money is available from the County Council, how far negotiations have got with that, and then to have a proper discussion about this, what this money is needed for, if we've got money available, either from ourselves or from the County Council. And then we can move it forward then onto Cabinet with a recommendation from the poverty panel. So that's the way I think it ought to be done. I think that's the proper process, rather than just going straight to Cabinet without a full discussion via the poverty working panel, because that is exactly why it's there. So we can look at all these issues in detail. The third section, yes, I wholeheartedly, agree with that. And I do understand Councillor Miller's doubts about whether it will actually get anywhere. But if every council in the country writes to the Chancellor and the Prime Minister in the same vein, we might actually achieve something. So I just like to ask Councillor Miller if he would be happy for certainly the second one of those proposals go via the poverty working panel in the first instance, with a report perhaps from Libby, I've not spoken to Libby about this, by the way, but from one of her member of her team, to just update us on what funding is available, what funding they're using now, and you know, whether we can actually release some more money either from ourselves or from elsewhere. So I wonder if Councillor Miller could respond to that suggestion.
I believe the correct process, Megan, is that there's actually, if you are you proposing an amendment to the proposal?
Well, yes, it's just basically
an amendment to the proposal.
I'm happy for it to go to cabinet, but via the poverty working panel, because that's the proper route to discuss it.
Chair, I think from my point of view, it all depends on how soon that poverty working panel is meeting, because
next month.
Next month. Well, what I'm worried about is this then drags. We then have a month before the next poverty meeting. We then have potentially a month before the next cabinet meeting, and by this point we're well into Christmas time and into the new year. From my point of view, this is an urgent situation, and that's why, with the greatest respect to Councillor Armstrong, the idea was to request an urgent report straight to cabinet. I respect the role of the poverty panel. It's done a brilliant job. This has come, the energy price rise has come, as I said, as an unprecedented thing which we weren't aware of. If a poverty working panel meeting could be arranged far sooner than next month, I'd be happy to incorporate it. But as things stand, a month's time is a long time, and I think we need to prepare ourselves for the winter, because people are suffering right now. The prices are going up right now.
Yeah, yes.
So that would be my issue.
We don't want to get with others wanting to speak, Councillor Armstrong. I think that the key to it is if Councillor Armstrong's proposal is a proposed amendment, then the first thing is that needs a second. And if is there a second for Councillor Armstrong's amendment? No, I'm not seeing any second for that. So on that basis, I'll move on to next speaker, which was Councillor Rowland. I've got next. Jack.
Thank you, Chair. I'll start off by referring back to Councillor Allen, as he mentioned my name, no doubt because I'm the portfolio holder for finance. And as we're rapidly approaching budget planning time, then time is of the essence if we're looking to look at increasing any budget expenditure in this particular area. One thing that Councillor Allen also mentioned was the fact that this pernicious decrease in universal credit could have been timed for next April. I disagree still with that actual timing as well, because for many people in employment who are also in receipt of universal credit, they're going to have a double whammy come next April because of the increase in national insurance as well. So that's another factor that's not helping with the timing of this. And when you bear in mind that inflation is rapidly increasing, you've also mentioned the energy prices. The end of furlough, we don't quite know what the impact is going to be yet. And we've already heard earlier, and last month I also asked officers about the costs of accommodation for homeless people. So those figures that came out in the report tonight came as no surprise to me, because it's really cemented the fact that we have put additional resources into Libby Jarrett's team that's really trying to prevent homelessness in the first place, to avoid the need for emergency accommodation in the longer run. And we've also put more resources as well into tackling, hopefully, trying to provide more affordable housing in this district, which is desperately needed because we do face a housing crisis. So I'm totally in favour of the sentiments behind this motion, and I totally support it. And wearing my finance portfolio hat, I look forward to seeing what may emerge from the report to Cabinet to see what further additional help can be provided through the district. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Rowland. Councillor Brown, Colin.
Thank you, Chair. we're all here tonight in virtual attendance and recognise the potential impact on East Devon residents, particularly children, young people, and vulnerable and the vulnerable. We all must collectively cross this virtual chamber, ensure that we're doing all we can to work with our partnering authorities to more visibly promote and take up of schemes such as Kickstart, and are actively signposting local businesses to the 2 Devon programmes, Smart Skills and Skill Support for the workforce, in order to support those at risk of financial difficulties, and by offering solutions to local employers and those aged 16 to 24 on universal credit to gain employment for a maximum of 6 months. The government has very recently launched a £500 million household support fund for the UK, of which Devon will receive just over £5 million. In fact, they will receive £5,064,876.12. The Chancellor said everyone should be able to afford essentials, and the government are committed to ensuring that this is the case. The new household support fund will provide a lifeline for those at risk of struggling to keep up with their incoming bills. The new fund will support households in Devon and will be distributed by Devon councils who know their local areas best and can directly help those who need it most, including, for example, through small grants to meet daily needs, such as food, clothing and utilities. The cash will be made available towards the end of this month. This money will have to be applied for by individual households, and I'm sure our leader is skilled in advising them how to do this. In view of the fact that this household support fund has now been made available, I cannot agree writing to the government asking for temporary measures to be extended, as this new support fund will be available on a basis of those who are actually in need. Finally, I would like to say our government has done remarkably well during this unprecedented time in ensuring East Devon District Council residents, businesses and organisations have been and will continue to be supported. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Colin. Councillor Bonetta. Jake, my apologies for obviously not being able to get you in as second, but Councillor Allen did a sterling job, so I'm sure you'll be happy. Over to you.
Absolutely. I do apologise myself. My internet cut out right as Councillor Paul Miller stopped speaking. So there we are. I wanted to obviously support what Councillor Miller has said. Thank him for proposing this, and also for the cross-party seconding of this motion. I also quickly, before I go any further, wanted to echo the comments made earlier in tribute to Sir David AMS MP and also Pete Edwards, and to say that the thoughts of the East Devon Labour Party are with their friends, families and all those affected. £20 a week doesn't sound like a lot to a lot of people, but it is to those who received the £20. This winter, with the 15% rise in electricity prices and the skyrocketing natural gas prices we've seen, £20 a week will be crucial in determining whether the lights go on, whether the house is warm or food is on the table for many people. And I like others here, support the urgency of this motion, especially as we are coming close to Christmas. This needs to go straight to Cabinet. I have been very, very lucky over the past year to be able to found and chair an organisation in Honiton called Honiton Food Save, which sees the most vulnerable people in Honiton through its doors 4 times a week. I speak to them on a regular basis when I run sessions every Thursday evening. And for those valued residents of our communities, things like Food Save act as a lifeline. And from conversations, I know that the £20 a week uplift has helped to stop the need for the service, which is extremely important. £20 a week is no small figure for households on the breadline, but it represents a £1,000 a year investment in our most vulnerable households, which is extremely important to them. And therefore, I would like to also second this motion. I think it's extremely important that we show this support for our residents in East Devon, especially as an extra 1 million households across the UK may be facing fuel poverty this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jake. I don't think we can have multiple seconds because I think you'd have had 1 or 2 bids already before that, but the sentiment's recognised. Councillor Gazzard, Steve.
Thank you, Chair. I'm really pleased to be able to give my support to this motion, and I thank Paul for putting it forward tonight. There's no doubt in my mind whatsoever there is a crisis looming at this present time. I personally, and now since the reduction of the £20 a week has stopped, I've been promoting or putting more people's names forward for food banks in Exmouth. So it's quite clear to me that that £20 a week was vital to those individuals. And by having to ask them to go to the food banks, a lot of them feel embarrassed about going. And you know, we live in a country and people shouldn't be embarrassed to go to a food bank to ask for some food. I think that by writing to the government will be good, because it shows that at least in East Devon we're proactive. We're trying to get something done rather than being, if you like, reactive. But I really hope, in following on from your words that you said at the beginning of the meeting tonight, Chair, I really hope that this will be unanimously supported by members here, because surely we all know members in our own villages and town that are absolutely struggling. And as has been said, we have Christmas around the corner. I think it's only 62 days away. And parents will be put through hell, to use that word, Chair, because what do? Do they try and buy presents for the children, or do they put food on the table, or do they keep the house warm, or what? So I make a plea. Could we all put our political views aside tonight and support the spirit of this motion? And hopefully that will be the case, Chair. But if not, let's just pass it overwhelmingly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gazzard. Steve. Councillor Armstrong, I've got you next, but we normally only allow 1 bite of the cherry on a motion like this, unless there's some clarification of something you said previously, in which case I'll accept it briefly.
I just wanted some clarification, because I'm just looking in my diary. I'm just thinking of the practicalities of this going to Cabinet. First of all, we have to get an officer to write a report within the next 2 weeks. Well, less than that, because it would have to go out to, a week before, presumably. So there's a practicality of that. The next poverty panel meeting is just 2 weeks after that. And the next Cabinet is just 1 week after the poverty panel. So I'm just seeking clarification about the timescales of this, please. And what I'm not sure that it can be done, basically. I'm not sure that this report can be done. If there are any officers at this meeting who would like to comment on that, I'm presuming it might be John Golding who might be asked to do this. I don't know. But I think we just need to be really clear before we agree something. We need to be clear that it can actually be achieved in the time that Councillor Miller is wanting it to be achieved.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Armstrong. Henry, is it appropriate for you to comment on that as senior officer present?
I'm not the only senior officer present, I'm relieved to say.
They're all hiding. You've got your picture on my screen, you see, so you get first bite.
They all stood back, presumably. And it'll be John or Simon, I think, because obviously Libya is likely to be the candidate writing it, so probably best to ask them. But I mean, generally speaking, obviously it needs to hit a cabinet agenda, so timings will have to flow into that.
Is that a saying yes it is practical, or no it isn't, or is Simon there?
Yeah, I think you have to ask the officers who would actually be writing it rather than me.
Are there any officers there hiding behind the other screen who are in a position to be responsible for this, or? They've all gone very quiet here, Henry. Chair. I can hear somebody saying chair. Oh, it's our Seaton correspondent, Mr. Davey.
We've actually presented a report today at SMT Plus in terms of the funding that's been made available to Devon and how we're working with Team Devon in order to put together a scheme and an allocation that we can use at district level. So we can certainly bring a report on that basis to Cabinet, but it's the other aspects that may be required in the report. I just don't want to promise what we can't be delivered within that timescale, but certainly in terms of our proposals regarding the fund that's gone to county at 5 million, we can certainly bring that and give members assurance of how we're working to bring that to district level to help our residents. I don't know if that addresses the issue that wants to be covered at Cabinet.
I've got to be honest, it confuses me a little bit as to where that leaves the motion.
Chairman, to help maybe proceedings here, may I have a moment to speak, please?
I'm sure it'll be good, Ian. Go for it.
Okay, first of all, I'll have to declare my interest as a county councillor for the Axminster division. From what Mr. Davies just said, with where this is going, and with the greatest respect to everyone here tonight, it seems to be drifting. But would it not be wise for the moment to wait until SMT have had the information regarding the 5 million from county, and then Cabinet will be able to be briefed one way or another then? Because I feel we're going to be going round and round in circles here tonight, and we do not know with the 5 million how it's going to be able to support the most in need and most vulnerable in our district. And let's be honest, that's what we all want to see here. So even though the intents of this motion are very clear and it's outlined by Councillor Miller, I believe the best way here is to pause just for a while, a matter of days, until our senior officers are able to look at the funding to see how they can look at administrating and helping our residents of East Devon. That is what I'm suggesting, Chair.
You're on mute, Ian.
Chair, you're on mute. Sorry, this is trying not to interrupt everybody. Sorry, my apologies. So effectively, and is that a proposed amendment that effectively there's a stay here? Because I'm struggling for proposals. I'm getting a lot of notes and comments from different people, but as to where it actually leaves the motion isn't clear.
I'm saying it seems a sensible option to be considered here, because we've got our senior officers are unsure. We're having a debate here. We do not know. There's still a lot of unknown unknowns. And all I'm saying is it would be beneficial for us to all make an informed choice to see how this money coming from central government and the 5 million to county, how that can be a benefit of all what we're trying to achieve here is for the benefit of the most in need and the vulnerable in our society. Thank you, Chair. And I am, if deemed, I would be looking for a seconder.
Yeah,
I would second that.
I would be happy to second that, Chair.
Whether we have a proposal for effective deferral, then Councillor Armstrong has seconded. Henry, am I getting this right?
Chair, I honestly don't think it's necessary. As long as there's an acceptance within the membership, that it won't necessarily be to the next cabinet meeting. It does say a forthcoming cabinet meeting. So as long as there's an acceptance that there needs to be some time to be able to put this together and do the work. I mean, a forthcoming meeting could be the cabinet meeting at the beginning of December. So I think this needs to be accepted, or it could be an urgent cabinet meeting called as and when required. So I mean, there is flexibility in it. I don't think you need to amend the wording, to be honest.
Okay, well,
Thanks,
so
Henry.
I don't require that amendment then, Councillor Hall. Thank you for that anyway. And Councillor Miller, I assume you're comfortable with that. So I must admit, I was getting the wrong
thanks, Chair.
impression earlier on.
The wording of my motion was carefully written. It didn't say the next cabinet meeting. It gave that flexibility. Thank you.
I misunderstood. Sorry. Anyway, next, I've got one or two speakers left I'd like to go to. Councillor Wibley, Joe.
Wibley Joe here. Thank you, Chair. this is mainly addressed towards the third part of the motion, and it's something I didn't really want to have to say. To reduce universal credit at this time, as prices rise, energy prices rise with them, and universal credit continues to pen people into a position where working leaves them worse off, it's nothing short of criminal. As a country, we are telling that those less fortunate than ourselves, we're telling them that poverty is the new normal. It's quite literally, and it's a very cliched image, but it's quite literally taking food from the mouths of children. Of course, we need to create a culture where people aspire to work rather than not to work. But right now, there is a crisis. And if government can protect their people, then they should. Again, it's, you know, fairly crude imagery. But if they're throwing billions of pounds at dodgy PPE, 6 billion nationally to keep our families clothed, fed and sheltered, seems like a no-brainer, you would think. I challenge colleagues here in this chamber to think about the last time they thought about how they would feed their children. How many of you have ever been in a position where homelessness is a real possibility, or where choosing between keeping your family warm or feeding them is a choice that you have to make right now and will then have to continue to make throughout the winter? I'm really tired of national politicians defending the cut in universal credit. It was a COVID measure, sure, and it kept children well fed and warm. But all it did was it brought to the people a level of support that should have existed already. I can't see a credible, morally sound argument to defend the decision to reduce universal credit. There are promises of new money. It won't be as much. We all, you know, who knows? It may be. I don't, you know. I'm quite angry about this, as you can tell. Okay. So for us, for colleagues to defend, to disagree with the third part of this motion, I can't see how you can, because this money is incredibly important to all of the people in our district, and I think we need to let Westminster know what we think. Thank you very much, Chair. Not so wibbly Joe, signing out.
Okay, is this on your Cllr C5? Is it you're signing out on?
Definitely.
Councillor Wright,
could I also call? Sorry, Chair. Could I also call for a recorded vote when we get there?
We will do in due course, yes, but that will require a vote, a proposer and a seconder as well. But I'll do that before we actually get to the vote. Councillor Wright, Eileen.
Thank you, Chair. Well, some years ago, when I was county councillor, there was something called the Devon Welfare Rights Take-Up Campaign. And this was promoted by Citizens Advice. And it helped identify where people could go, where they could get advice on unclaimed benefits. They didn't know they were entitled to them. That brought in £5 million a year, roughly, to the Devon economy. So, in my view, this is a myopic move by the government. They're wanting to promote the economy, encouraging people to go out and shop and all the rest of it. That's why they want us all back into Blackdown House. So, in the hope that, you know, people who go to work will go into the towns and spend money. So I think it's very short-sighted. They don't realise the benefit to the economy, the local economies. And I think it's Dickensian. I really do. We've heard about fuel costs spiralling. People are going to be facing more hardship this winter, and also evictions happening where they can't get their rent paid. So I think there is another side to this as well. And I think when, the government, on the one hand, whichever government it is, can give an allowance of £25 a day in certain cases for MPs to claim meal allowances. It's as somebody said earlier, it is bordering on criminal, I think, and it's not protecting the vulnerable. So I certainly will be, and it's widening the gap between the haves and the have-nots. And we can't be just sitting back and doing nothing about this. So I shall be firmly backing this motion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wright. I've got Councillor Young. Jeff, next, please.
Thank you, Chair. It has been mentioned that people are embarrassed to visit a food bank. Please don't be. I am personally very embarrassed that anyone in this country should need to visit a food bank. In fact, next we will be introducing workhouses if this continues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Young. Councillor Arnott. Paul.
Thank you, Chair. I had put my hand up to just be very boring with the drafting. As Councillor Miller has said, it does clearly say a future meeting of Cabinet, not the next Cabinet. So that point's now being covered. I wonder, Chair, whether and this is frustrating to many people, I'm sure, but whether we should put the vote quite soon. I think the essence of the disagreement is about that third paragraph, isn't it? And we can understand, I think we all in our hearts know what that's really about. But I hope tonight we don't have to get into a skirmish around that. So from my point of view, I'd like to propose the vote is put, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Councillor Arnott. What I'd like to do with your agreement is I've got the normal process on this is I like to allow people to speak once on everything. So what I propose to do, Jack and Mike and Councillor Allen, in that you've already had a go on this one and we're still actually talking about the substantive motion. It isn't an amendment. I'd like to just hear Councillor Rylance, who I don't believe spoken, and Councillor Bailey, who hasn't spoken either. And then at that point, with a seconder, the motion can be put. Councillor Rylance.
Thank you, Chair. Well, as a child brought up on benefits in a country which actually valued its children, I'm actually slightly bordering on horrified that we just spent 40 minutes discussing whether it's appropriate to afford a child and a young person growing up in this country an appropriate income. Because I can assure you that among these children that we're talking about, you know, should we be giving them £20? Should we not be giving them £20? There will be people who we could save and set on the path to a very, very long and happy life by, as a country, actually making sure that their parents are not scrabbling around trying to find every single penny down the back of the sofa to make sure that they can eat. I've seen my mother do that in a country with a much better set up benefit system. And I can assure you there's nothing honourable about it. There is nothing honourable about not being able to earn enough from your job that you can actually afford to feed your children. This is actually a shameful reflection on our country, if I'm brutally honest. Now, what I'd really like to come out of this debate we're having this evening is for the people out there who need our services and need support through the horrific time that they're about to face, through a whole concatenation of circumstances all coming together at once, is that if they need us, then we will continue to afford them as much care as we possibly can, as much help as we possibly can, and that we will help signpost them in the correct directions. I wouldn't like anybody to listen to this 40 minutes of debate and think, oh, they don't care, they're just arguing about whether or not we should keep the £20. Because everybody who's out there who's listening to this debate, please be assured that I think I can speak for absolutely everybody at this council table and say I think we all are singing from the same hymn sheet. We all think that people should be able to bring up their children with an adequate income in this country. And the only thing you have to understand is that it's not made very easy for us to help. But I would like you to be assured that any support that we are offering you at the moment, that's not going to change. That, you know, you can carry on accessing support services, you can carry on asking for help. Please do it, because we could all be in the situation. Any of us could be. Any of us could lose our income tomorrow, or be sick tomorrow, or have a partner, you know, fall ill and not be able to work. Any of us could be in that situation. So please don't feel embarrassed or guilty about needing help when you need it. please carry on asking for our help. You know, if anything comes out of this debate this evening, please be assured that in as much as possible, we are still there for you. This is not a debate about whether or not we think it's appropriate for this to be happening. It's absolutely not appropriate for your income to be dropped just before a winter when everything is rising so sharply in price and accommodation is so hard to come by. So, I mean, I don't know if we can add any form of words to this debate at this point, to this motion about, you know, continuing to afford as much help as we possibly can, and actually reassuring people that we haven't gone away. And, you know, even if things are difficult, we are still, you know, aiming to help as much as possible, as much as is actually possible within legislation. So I don't know, Chair, whether it's appropriate to add anything at this point, but I just didn't want the takeaway to be that councillors sit around in a talking shop for 40 minutes discussing whether or not you should be having your income dropped, because that's absolutely not what we're talking about. And please keep asking for help if you need it. That's super crucial. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rylands. I think unless it's a specific material amendment, I'd prefer not to go forward with that, unless it's particularly important. I think most of the items are covered off. I'd really just like to take a couple of more speakers who had already indicated and who haven't spoken before. I've got Councillor Bailey, please.
Thank you very much. Yes, just to declare personal interest as Devon County Councillor, I'm strongly opposed to the reduction in universal credit. I think it's appalling, and I just wanted to articulate my support for the motion. I think it's a good motion, and I hope that it gets support tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. Councillor Loudon, briefly, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just wish to second Councillor Arnott's proposal that the vote now be put.
Thank you very much. Well, I think we take a vote on that now, don't we, Henry? Is that correct? Yep. So on the basis there's a proposal on the table that the vote now be put, could those in favour of the motion being put please indicate with a green tick, and those against with a red cross. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, does that mean that Councillor Johns won't get to speak? Because you did say that every councillor would get to speak at least once.
But that wasn't actually quite what I said. I had those that had indicated a wish to speak who hadn't already spoken. And at that point, Councillor Johns wasn't indicating on the board.
Okay, Chair, I have presently 30 members voting for, 1 against, and 1, I believe, is abstaining.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, before you move to the actual
this question
vote,
is summing up.
Well,
does Councillor Miller have the right to sum up at this point, even though the motion to put's been made?
Yeah, you've also got Councillor Whibley's. You held off asking for a seconder to Councillor Whibley's recorded vote, so I think it'll be right.
You're absolutely correct. My apologies. Thank you for reminding me of that. So, but again, so I'm working on the basis then that Councillor Miller still has his right of reply. And that the vote they will then be put, and we also now go through. If I have a seconder, please, for a recorded vote.
Happy to second that.
I didn't catch who that was, but whether Sue managed to second that.
Jackson.
Yeah.
Councillor Jackson. Okay, Councillor Jackson second. So the first thing is those in favour of a recorded vote, please.
Okay, Chair, we have 28 voting for, 2 against, and 1 abstaining.
Okay, thank you very much. That means we will ultimately have a recorded vote. What I'd like to do now is invite Councillor Miller to sum up.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. I think to focus on the positives, I think there have been some superb speeches this evening. Councillor Allen, our 3 Liberal Democrat colleagues, Councillor Ragg, Councillor Gazzard, and Councillor Rylands. Councillor Whibley made a brilliant speech, and my colleague Councillor Bonetta as well. I think to sum up, a decent safety net and a strong economy are 2 sides of the same coin. I'm glad that I feel that we have reached broad consensus this evening, and I'm looking forward to the vote. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Miller. So on the basis we've got a recorded vote, Sue, we're going to do that. You're going to read the names out one by one.
Yes, I will.
And then basically that 4 would be for the motion as put, against would be against the motion, and that we haven't actually got any amendments that have been carried across to the final proposal. Okay, everybody clear on that?
Chair, as I seconded the motion, is there no chance for me to sum up as well?
I'm afraid there isn't my understanding is there isn't a process for the seconder to be involved in the summing up process, that the proposer has a right of summing up, but not the second. I believe that's correct. And you did actually obviously have the chance to speak, Councillor Allen, so hopefully everything's been covered. Anyway, so we did record a vote. Sue, over to you, please.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Councillor Allen?
4.
Councillor Armstrong?
Sorry, I was on mute. 4.
Councillor Arnott?
4.
Councillor Bailey?
4.
Councillor Barrow? Councillor Bickley?
4.
Councillor Blakey? Cllr Bloxham? Councillor Bonetta?
4. Thank you, Sue.
Councillor Brown?
Abstain.
Councillor Bruce? Councillor Bruce? Councillor Cahill?
Abstain.
Councillor Chamberlain?
4, Sue. Thank you.
Councillor Chapman? Councillor Chapman? Councillor Chubb? Councillor Davey?
4.
Councillor Desarum?
Good evening, Sue. Abstain.
Councillor Dent?
Abstain.
Councillor Faithful?
4.
Councillor Gazzard?
4.
Councillor Hall?
First time in my life I'm abstaining.
Councillor Hartnell?
Abstain.
Sorry, Sue, I missed that. I've just got reconnected. I'm abstaining as well. Councillor Bruce.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hawkins, I believe he's left actually. Okay. Councillor Hookway?
4. Thank you, Sue.
Councillor Hughes?
Abstain.
Councillor Ingham?
Abstain.
Councillor Jackson?
4. Thank you, Sue.
Councillor Jarvis? Councillor Jarvis? Councillor Johns?
100% 4. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you. Councillor Young?
4.
Councillor Kemp?
4.
Councillor Lawrence?
Abstain.
Councillor Loudon?
4. Thank you.
Councillor Manley?
4.
Councillor McCollum? Councillor McCollum? Councillor Miller?
4. Thank you, Sue.
Councillor Moulding?
Abstain.
Councillor Parr?
Abstain.
Councillor Pepper's not here. Councillor Pook? Oh, sorry, I think he's left. Beg your pardon. Councillor Pratt?
4. Thank you.
Councillor Ranger?
4.
Councillor Rickson?
4.
Councillor Rowland?
4.
Councillor Rylance?
4, 4, 4.
Councillor Skinner?
Abstain.
Councillor Taylor?
4.
Councillor Thomas?
4.
Councillor Twiss. Councillor Whibley.
4. Thank you, Sue.
Councillor Ragg.
4.
Councillor Tom Wright.
Abstain.
Bear with me a moment, Chair. Okay, Chair, I think I've heard 27 voting for the motion and 14 abstaining.
Thank you very much, Sue. Well, that means the motion is carried. And that also brings our council meeting to an end. And I'd like to thank everyone for their attendance. Members, can I remind you that you can still be heard and seen, and any comments may be recorded until the Democratic Services team confirm that our live streaming and recording has stopped. But other than that, thank you very much for your attention this evening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Chair. Good night. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Well done.